Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, preview and review the ones that we can, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. So you guys did vote for the next Off the Cuff, thank you very much for that. It's Dragon Age 2, I got that up right now. And also I took a look at PayDay 3, as that just released not too long ago. And I gotta say, I am very disappointed in the initial implementation of that one. So it is quite short. You'll see why within a couple of minutes, and you can check that out too if you'd like. For this gaming news, man, we got a bunch. So set in for another long one, probably at least another hour, because there's some changes in the industry and some leaks too that have really changed some stuff. I'm probably sure you've seen some already, but what we're going to be talking about is what Unity's done, their response from the community, and then how Unity is rolling back some of their implementation. We're also going to talk about Xbox leaks. I know that's been swimming all over, but I want to make sure to cover that too. And then we're also looking at striking distance, which they made Callisto Protocol. One of the leads from that helped make Dead Space created striking distance, so we got an update for that. We also got an update for Helldivers 2. We're also looking at Final Fantasy Rebirth 2. We're going to take a look at Square Enix so far, how Lies of P is doing, and also PayDay 3. And we got an update on Immortals of Avium, and Mortal Kombat 1, and some for Diablo 4, as well as another remaster of some very old games. I'm excited to share that one with you. I cover everything. God, I got so much written on here, folks. This is insane. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So there's a lot that's happened this week. Man, it's either fast or famine. Feast or famine, excuse me. It seems like everything either happens all at once in the same week or almost nothing happens at all. And so, yeah, this is going to be a big one, though. So we're going to start with Unity. This one, I think, is one of the biggest things in the industry. And the reason this is such a big deal is because they're actually changing how they're making money as a company. And they're changing how they make that money. And this is also going to change the industry, too. This isn't just going to affect Unity or those that use Unity. If you don't know, Unity is an engine. But let's dig into what they're doing. So, many mobile devs have, as we already know, we know Unity was basically saying, hey, if people install your game, you're going to pay for it. And they had different tiers, and they had different paywalls, and the devs were going to be paying for that. We did look into this last week. Well, we're now looking into the kind of the response that we've had, and then the response of Unity to the response. So many mobile game devs had turned off Source and Unity ads in their games. So this means that Unity isn't actually going to make any revenue. They're no longer going to be pulling from that. And this is in the tens of millions of dollars that they're already seeing a restriction of cash. And everything is hooked up online now all the time, constantly. And I'm sure they're seeing that disappearance of cash flow on a weekly basis. But yeah, a lot of devs are extremely frustrated about this. For this type of move, there's 424 public supporters. So these are studios or dev teams. And we're looking at already they've lost a good chunk of money, but we're looking at over 20 billion games where they're no longer going to be making revenue from those games. Unity won't be making revenue from those games. And so studios are willing to just cut it off. They're willing to no longer work on these future projects. There is a massive push, almost instantaneously, against Unity and to make sure they start losing money right away from their decision. Because, it does really suck. It's like you already pay to use Unity, right? And it's basically a subscription service. And then now you have to pay per install of your game past a certain point. And it's really a lose-lose situation for the devs, because either way they have to spend more money and that has to cut more into their margins, and that's really going to hurt especially small developers. So, and we want as many kind of smaller studios as possible, because we can get games like Steel Rising, Lies of P, Jusant, we can get Journey, which is an old one, Subnautica. We can get these type of games that we really enjoy, also like Cult of the Lamb, and Power Washing Simulator, because, you know, that one was so fun to show on the channel. But yeah, we want this type of diversity in the gaming space, and we don't want all of these mega corporates to be the only ones that can design games. So we want a program, we want a way so that small devs and studios can actually get started. Because it's extremely expensive to get started. Even just small projects can be tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when you're just you and a few other folks, yeah, it's expensive. It is expensive. So this was just further cutting into and making it more difficult for devs to actually do things, which sucks. Also, we see that Relogic is fighting this, so they are now going to be donating $100,000 a month to FNA and Godot to support other engines than Unity. And so they're going to be getting more revenue to make their engines better, to implement their engines, to create a kind of like better support system for future devs. And so this is a really big leg up for smaller engines. Because the big ones are basically Unity, Creation, which is Bethesda, and then Unreal. And we probably all of us have heard of Unreal for sure. But Unity is pretty big too, and there's really not a lot of engines out there. Again, there's a few others, but basically if you want a really good one, it's Unity or Unreal, and Creation isn't available for any third party, it's just Bethesda. And so Relogic, that is now donating $100,000 per month, that is a good chunk of cash flow that smaller engines are going to be getting, and that's just going to be encouraging a better ecosystem for people to choose someone else other than Unity. We also have the EGDF, which is a Euro regulator. They're now looking into Unity's changes and looking to see if they're fair, ethical, and moral to devs. Because this is, of course, going to change their space too over in Europe. And they want to make sure that things are going to be fair, things are going to be help create a healthy environment long term in the ecosystem and in the gaming industry, which is why we have regulators, folks, in the first place. And they're also looking at seeing if, just in the Eurozone, is that's all they can affect, if they should ban the retroactive license changes, like the installation fees. So part of Unity's change was not just to charge devs per install of current and future games, but also games that were made in Unity even like decades ago. It would be all games across all iterations and versions of Unity where devs would have to be paying. And some of these studios, they don't even exist anymore, so who's going to pay that? I mean, it's like, did they really think this through? I feel like they're just greedy, or they're starving for money. And hey, if you don't have enough to support your company, you got to shrink your company. And you got to go through some pain for a few years before you can come back. And this is normal for pretty much every industry, every company, big or small, is you got to, enjoy the good times and plan ahead for the bad ones, because the bad ones do always come back. And so it's a cycle, folks. But having a retroactive license where you're changing all of this is just like, yeah, that is because there's decisions that are made, and contracts are supposed to be, of course, binding, but also very out in the open, very have every type of disclosure so that devs can make the best choice in this instance, and to retroactive stuff like that is horrible. So the EGDF is looking to actually ban the retroactive aspect of this change from Unity, which means Unity wouldn't be able to collect money from it, which I think would be great. Unity is now also saying that install fee changes were a miscommunication. There's still really no apology. They're just talking about and feeling sorry that things were announced in a way that the gaming industry doesn't understand. So I don't know if they're calling us dumb or something else. Uh, but it's just like, and we've seen this too from Blizzard, we've seen this too from Activision, we've seen this too from EA and Ubisoft and Square Enix, and it's like, oh, sorry that you found out or that you misunderstood what I was saying. It's like, no, we understand exactly what you're doing, Unity, along with everybody else, and it's like, to not really care about giving an apology is just more poison in the potatoes, and people are just, they're spitting it out like crazy. So the developers in unison are saying that the business model is horrible, and some of them are like, good luck, Unity, because I mean, when you destroy the trust like this, when you destroy the relationships that you had, and the good faith in those relationships and contracts and business arrangements, it really makes the devs want to go somewhere else. And that's the great thing still about capitalism, folks, is that capitalism allows choice. And so if you don't want to work with a company, if you don't want to do something with somebody, if you don't want to buy that particular brand or product, you don't have to. You get to vote that way. And that's why capitalism is a success for the little guy, because otherwise, all other forms of government, they eventually just get too big, including socialism, and there's too much regulations for small guys to show up. And so this is why capitalism is a good thing. Is it perfect? No. But it's the best system that us humans can come up with. So I think it's horrible. There's really no apology. Oh yeah, the another thing too was the UI Canvasis is saying that, I'm not sure if I got that name right, saying that if Unity goes forward with these changes, they will write guides on how to port games and assets over to Unreal Engine from Unity. So when you make something in a program, there's certain code and source, and like there isn't really like a universal hub for assets to be able to be interchangeable between programs or to build your game. And so that's why it's really important when you're making a decision on what engine you pick, you're really planning to stick with it very long term. And this is why this Unity change is such a slap in the face, and also difficult for all developers, because if they do pull the plug, it's going to be quite difficult, and they also can lose all of the digital assets they've ever made for any game. And we've seen in even AAA games and AA studios that they still repeat and reuse a lot of assets, and it's because, well, those assets are already made, they're still used in the same engine, and so it just saves time and money to be able to reuse stuff, but they'd have to scrap all of that. Well, what UI Canvasis is saying is that they will write guides on how to port assets over into Unreal. And I think that's great, because devs are going to need to know how to do that if they no longer want to work with Unity, but they also don't want to lose all of their stuff. And of course, since there's money involved, some of these devs are under a lot of pressure. It's just like, okay, do we just let the company bomb? Do we just let the company, do we even finish our game at this point? Or do we just start over? And, it's wonderful to be able to do things, but if you don't have the money and resources to do it, that can be really tough. And all of these studios, they still have other contracts too that they also have to follow through with. And so, yeah, this is a real monkey wrench that Unity has thrown in. And this is why a lot of the devs are so pissed, is because it ultimately makes their job harder. Not just harder on a work level, it also makes it harder to be successful. So long term, Unity is in real trouble, and I'll explain why. Because in order to get hired on as a developer, an actual employee of a company, you have to know how to use certain engines, and you actually take courses and classes and even get degrees for some of these, or certifications. And so if you're going to learn how to use some of these programs and use them effectively and efficiently so that you can actually help a company make money, you got to go to school for a lot of this. And and that includes Unity. Well, if people don't believe that Unity is going to be a good engine to use in the future, because maybe now people won't want to use it, I wonder why, then maybe you don't want to learn Unity. Maybe you'd rather learn Unreal or some of the other smaller ones, or even just make one yourself. And so it creates more competition for Unity, not just on a current level today of who developers are choosing, but if you're a developer studio and you're looking for developers to create your game, you're going to be looking at people and what they've learned. And if they've learned Unity, maybe you don't want to hire them because you're not going to use Unity. Or maybe there is no one that's learned Unity, and so you're going to take just who's available, and that's going to be Unreal or something else. And so this is a long-term problem for Unity. It could ultimately kill the engine, which, in my opinion, I really think that needs to happen. You know, I'm okay with seeing some pain, even for myself. I know every time I'm experiencing pain, I'm learning something. It's also humbling. It's stripping some of my ego and arrogance out, which is healthy, and it helps me be a better husband or a better dad or a better friend or a better coworker. And this is why accountability is good. And you know, we also got to look at ourselves, folks, because this isn't just a Unity problem of being greedy or wanting to make unilateral decisions for everybody. This is just a human problem. And so look at yourself too. You know, are you being like Unity in your life? Take some time to think about that. But yeah, this should be a lesson for everyone. The focus should be long-term, and the focus on short-term should only be as it's needed. But, you know, when you're running a company, when you're having a family, when you have friends, when you have a job, you want to think longevity, because nobody wants to get divorced. Nobody wants to have to change jobs. Nobody wants to have to cancel a project or any of that stuff. And, you know, you got to take time to really think about that. And so, yeah, long-term is always better. Short-term is never going to be worth it in the long run. And so that's a really good lesson to learn. So let's see, in other news, we also had Xbox had some huge leaks. We're talking like the next 4 or 5 years of leaks. Now, is it everything? No. But it's a huge chunk of stuff. And I gotta say, some of it doesn't really pertain to me that much. But other parts of it is, yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. Let me get into it. So we're going to have a refresh. And so what this means is this is like the next mid-tier stage that we're going to be getting for new Xboxes. Is we're going to have like a what they call Xbox refresh. And this will basically be Series S and Series X consoles, except they'll have double the hard drive, internal hard drive capacity. So instead of 512 gigabytes for the S, it'll be 1 terabyte. And instead of 1 terabyte for the X, it'll be 2 terabytes. The prices, respectively, are going to be $300 and $500. And the S refresh is going to launch first in August of 2024. And then the refresh X is going to launch in October. So we'll have August, and then a couple months later we'll have October. And so they did have a chart that was leaked looking at their fiscal year. And I want to explain fiscal years a little bit because it's not a calendar year. It's more like a school year. So the fiscal year starts on July 1st, ends on June 30th. And that's important to understand because it says fiscal year 2025, but that's not 2025. That's in the latter half of 2024. So I want you guys to understand that. So this is, the Xbox refreshes are coming out next year, basically in a year. And, yeah, I also think it's kind of dumb because Xbox has also made these expansion cards. So you have a slot in the back that you can plug it into, and you can buy all the way up to 2 terabytes. And it's like they're selling you on extra storage space when they've already given you an option to buy more storage space. And like that, yeah, that really doesn't make sense. And there are some pretty good deals out there. I bought one myself. I bought a 1 terabyte for like, it was like $100. It was a pretty good deal. And if you go to Walmart, they will have a Seagate Game Drive dual bundle. So they have a regular, like 2 terabyte hard drive, but then they also have a genuine 1 terabyte Seagate series memory card in there that you can plug into the back, and it works great. So I know it's legit. It's nothing cheapy about it. It's just a much cheaper way to get it. Normally it's $200, but I went in on a friend who wanted a bigger external hard drive for his Xbox 360 and Xbox One games, and so I was like, sure. And so yeah, we basically split it down the middle, and you know, he was able to save a little bit, and I was able to save quite a bit actually, and it ended up being a great deal for both of us. And there's ways to get cheaper things, folks. I've been waiting for a long time to be able to get a memory card, but with the refresh, it's like, it really feels like it's not necessary. And they're still trying to keep the S propped up. I really think they should just get rid of it, because it's holding back a lot of games, and it's frustrating a lot of developers. Something else we got to see from the Xbox leaks is that there's a new haptic feedback controller. This will be launching in May 30th-ish of 2024. This will be $70. Man, yeah, we're at $70 now. But yeah, the haptic feedback is going to be using vibration through a physical medium in the controller, you know, kind of like sound and frequencies, to provide that feedback while you're playing a game. So whether you're like shooting a gun or getting punched in the face or whatever. And Sony has had pretty good feedback on their haptic controllers for PlayStation 5, and so I think Xbox is just following suit. And we usually see that in the industry. When someone tries something and it does very, very well, the other people in the game, so to speak, will try the same thing. I mean, we're seeing that with like Twitch has made handheld controllers or Nintendo has made handheld controllers for quite some time, like with the Wii U, but the Wii U didn't really do that well, but the Switch did great, and so they've improved upon that, and now that the Switch has been doing well, and even the Switch 2.0 will have the same thing, now we see Xbox and PlayStation getting into the same space where there will be a handheld of some sort, and but yeah, it's not really quite the same. Another thing, too, is with these new consoles, they're not going to have disk drives. So the refreshes are diskless. Which I think is a real bummer, because a lot of us still like physical games, because we like to own our games. And, you know, as long as you have all of the game on a disc, you can actually play the game and enjoy it, even when the game becomes delisted or is removed from servers, or removed from a subscription service like Game Pass. And it's nice to have that. You know, I got 3 stacks or 4 stacks. 5. There's another one. So I got 5 stacks of Xbox games. And I've been accumulating over the last few years. I didn't for a while because I didn't play games as much, but since the channel, and also gaming with Lion and making friends with Shepard, and I got some other friends too that play other games, I've been stacking games, and I really like the physical games. I just wish now that we can get the full game on the disc, and I think that's kind of a bummer that that's becoming a problem. But you know, some things are going to change, and we're not going to be able to fix it, folks. But the things that we can influence in the gaming industry, we should. So yeah, no disk drives. We also got to learn more about the next new Xbox. So this will be looking to come in 2028. We know that PlayStation is looking to put theirs out in 2027. And so this will be around the same time. We know Nintendo is probably going to put out their Switch next year, or maybe in a couple of years, depending on how things go. But I think it's slotted for next year. Or maybe a couple of years. Probably, well, maybe a couple of years. I don't know. I have to be honest, I don't remember. But yeah, we're going to get new generations anyway, and I'm not really sure if the refresh or even like the PlayStation 5 Pro is really going to be worth it if it's just going to be a few more years anyway to get the next gen consoles, because they're definitely on their way. But yeah, these next gen consoles for Xbox or the next gen Xbox, it will use hardware and software to be able to optimize games. And so what that means is they're going to be using the client, which is the hardware that's built into the system, as well as cloud performance enhancing programs to further improve gaming. And I think what is going on is that it's starting to get too expensive to actually keep the price point of $500 for a game console. And so they're trying to find creative ways to still give more performance what people want, but still at the price that they wish. And so I think that's why we're starting to see cloud. Eventually, we're all going to just see cloud, period. We won't even really have a console. It'll be a dongle you'll plug into your TV or something, or hook it up with, Bluetooth 4.0, and that's how you'll connect to the service to play all of your games that are all digital. And that sounds like a horrible future, but honestly, I do think we're going that way. I might see that in my lifetime. But yeah, hardware is just starting to be too expensive, I think. And whether we want to admit that, or whether companies want to admit that, or even show proof, we don't know. But we know ultimately that companies find ever creative ways to have it be cheaper for them and to charge more for the customer. And that's basically what inflation is. And companies try to maintain their margins, but ultimately things get more expensive for them too. So they're trying to keep the company the same, or even grow the company, and making it cheaper for themselves while charging more for their customers. That's generally every single business model that exists out there. Doesn't matter the space, doesn't matter the industry, doesn't matter the company. That's basically just how it goes. Even running my own little side gig business, it's like, yeah, the price of what I use goes up, and so does the cost for the service I provide. Whether it's controllers or whether it's automotive stuff, it's like, sorry, man, this is what I got to charge. I got to make it worth it, because I'm not doing, I'm not like doing an oil change for like $3. It ain't going to be worth it. So yeah, that is just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. And yeah, cloud gaming is going to become definitely a thing, and I think Xbox is really going to push it first. And if they're successful, we'll see the others follow suit with that too. So yeah, this next-gen console, because of the software in the cloud, it's going to require a permanent internet connection. Always, all the time. It's not just going to be like an internet check like our current consoles, which is every 24 hours. It's going to be a permanent, necessary connection pretty much to run your console. I think we can expect that. Also, the series will run about a 10-year cycle. Yeah, we're getting close to that, and so with this next gen, it should be coming in about 27, 28, depending on when they want to put it out. It's also possible that there might be a disk drive still with the next gen console, not the refresh, but the next gen later this decade, and I really hope so. But again, I don't really know what the backwards compatibility is going to look like. So we know with 360, all your original Xbox plays just fine. Plug in the disc, you can play. We know with Xbox One, quite a few of the 360 can play, and some of the original Xbox can play. But that's how we had like the backwards compatibility list. So we know that Xbox is no longer going to create any more to the backwards compatibility list. It is what it is, and it's just going to stay that way. But I don't know if the backwards compatibility list is ultimately going to continue on forever as it is today. It might just become a part of Game Pass. So that's an interesting thought. Also, too, they might just do away with it entirely at some point. And I think that would be kind of a bummer, because then it's just like, well, Are we even going to have software then to have backwards compatibility at all with the next-gen consoles? PlayStation included. And so, I don't know. That's a little scary. So I'm definitely going to be hanging on to my consoles. I got a couple of Xbox Ones. I got a Series X. And I think I'm just going to keep my consoles, and I'm just going to do that forever. I'll just have a massive freaking cabinet full of gaming equipment through my old age. Because the way it's definitely going is that everything's digital. Everything's online. You don't actually own anything. And then there's no backwards compatibility. I think that is all of those things. I think those are all coming. Something else I thought it was interesting with the new Xbox is that there's also an app mentioned for a creator platform. And so they're going to try to integrate and produce more of an environment for creators. Whether that is content creators or like dev creators, I think it's more content creators, but it's interesting how that space used to be a joke. Oh, you're a YouTuber. And now we have companies thinking about it as like a main staple in their business model. I think that's really interesting. Also, during the leak, we found out about some Xbox games. We found out that Oblivion is going to get a remaster. I now feel quite bad for Sky Oblivion. I hope they're able to complete it pretty quickly, because they honestly don't have too much time. They've been able to do a lot, but Sky Oblivion is a mod that'll attach to Skyrim, and it's a remastered Oblivion. But now that Oblivion is going to officially get a remaster from Bethesda, that kind of hurts them a little bit. So I don't know. We'll have to see what people choose. We also found out that we're going to get a new Doom called Year Zero. So Doom Year Zero. And then we also saw that Elder Scrolls 6 is only going to be on Xbox and PC. And then we also saw that Fallout 3 is going to get a remaster, which I would love to buy that one. That one's my favorite, honestly. My favorite Fallout. We also saw that Ghostwire is going to get a sequel. There's going to be a Dishonored 3. And then there's also only going to be one confirmed DLC for Starfield, which is Shattered Skies. So hopefully that's a big one. We know a lot of the modders will basically take over the game and continue to produce and build things. We do know that we're going to get tools next year for PC and Xbox. Official tools from Bethesda for modders, and we'll see what they make. If it's anything like Minecraft, Minecraft is still relevant. All of the stuff out there, it's crazy. And the amount of things that you can purchase, and that's the kind of the microtransactions I would prefer to have. Instead of a big company that has focused on everything and controls everything, I would rather have a open market environment where people are able to create and also possibly get revenue from that. Just like YouTube. I'd rather have a YouTube than some crazy corporatized Activision Blizzard thing. Because honestly, I think we'd all agree that YouTube is a better platform. A better implementation of that type of business model. So that's what I'm really hoping for. We also know, too, that one thing that was leaked was Phil Spencer was wanting to buy Nintendo at one point, and he still does. Nintendo is not interested at all. But Phil sees this as a career goal, and he's willing to play, quote, the long game. And I really don't want that to happen. I want Nintendo to stay independent and stay on their own. I really don't think that's beneficial at all to the gaming community or the industry, because now we're just basically down to 2 consoles, and I really got to say that is kind of a mess. And so, yeah, it's more of a monopoly. It's probably going to destroy and change IPs like Legend of Zelda or or like Super Mario or Mario Kart or other Nintendo IPs, and it's just like that's not really what I want, because we're going to have a different mindset, a different view than the original creators or what Nintendo has been procuring for the last 4 decades. And yeah, for Nintendo to be bought would be horrible. I wonder too if Sony in a way created a monster when they went after Xbox. and also when Sony has been doing timed exclusives for the last decade. And so does Xbox finally all in? I mean, are they at a point? Is Phil at a point where like the gloves are off and it's time to rock, baby? And so I wonder if just how Sony has been doing things has now altered the environment for these big mega corporations. And so maybe at this point Phil Spencer is willing to play ball. And this means, folks, that Phil Spencer may not be the best advocate for the gaming space. He'll be more of an advocate for his career and for his company. And so we should be mindful of that with the future decisions that are going to happen. And yeah, I really think that is pretty insane. I hope that never happens. I really don't want it to under any circumstances. And yeah, I really think, yeah, I really hope that never happens. That'll be really, really bad. I also do feel bad for Microsoft, though, with the leaks. I mean, the next 4 or 5 years is all laid out on a table, pretty much. And so PlayStation and Nintendo and anyone else are able to kind of market things and have an advantage over Microsoft, which, in my opinion, Sony doesn't need a better advantage than they've already had. Because if we lose Microsoft and lose Xbox, ultimately then it's just going to be PlayStation, and I don't want that either. I want as many players in the game as possible. And just like an open market, folks, you want as many options as you can. You want there to be healthy competition so that you can have longevity of the gaming space. Otherwise, it can just turn into something like the Oasis in Ready Player One, where we see in that movie it's just there's this kind of one hub, and all of these kind of DLC areas or games are all strewn about, and you get to play these different games. And there's like an open market kind of too in that space, you know, for creators and stuff like that, but it's just one gaming company that controls and runs everything. And you really want the head of that to have the people's interest in their mind. You want someone that's going to care about the space more than their own company. And I'm not sure if any of the big dogs today can do that. I'm really not sure, because every move that they make is calculated, and every single move that they do is ultimately to benefit them. And we're really, really starting to see that. And like I said, I wonder if PlayStation has kind of shifted and adjusted the gaming space now, where Xbox is just, it's ready to play ball. And if that's the case, then the next console war, I think, is going to be pretty bad, including the mid-tier consoles. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens, but I really think we should keep an eye out for that. Okay, on to the rest of the news. Those are two big, bulky items. The rest of it is going to be a little smaller, but we still got quite a bit to go through. So, Lies of P, how's it doing? So, Lies of P is reviewing fairly well. It's got a 3.6 out of 5 on Xbox. This is a $60 game. You can buy the fancier version for about $70, I think. Just an extra $10. So far, most people really like the game. I did play the demo. I got to show it to you guys a while back. And I will be playing the game for an initial look. And I'll honestly be playing the game myself. I'll probably stream a good chunk of it. But this game is definitely a parry type of game, just like Sekiro. And so if you're really horrible at parrying, then this game is going to be really tough for you. And if you didn't like Sekiro, you're probably not going to like this one either. Because even some people that have played Sekiro or some of the other Dark Souls games or some of the Dark Souls types, like Wulong Fallen Dynasty, etc., is they're expressing that some of the hitboxes are frustrating. They're finding, too, that the dodge is really annoying because you can't really move that far to dodge. Enemies can spam attacks pretty bad, which I even showed that in the demo. Good God, man, that first boss was so brutal for me. Good. Right, Lion? Sucks to suck. Yeah, love you, bro. And then there's also delayed guards. And so there's kind of some refinement that I think needs to take place in the game from what people are saying in their reviews. And with the demo that I played too, it's just like sometimes I felt like that should have hit, or that should have missed, or I should have been able to roll. Instead, I got maybe stuck in an animation for a little too long, and the command input that I gave my character didn't do anything. And so there's going to be a lot of frustrating deaths, I think, in the game. And so parry is pretty much going to be your only way to get through the game. And not everybody's for that, and that's okay. And in the gaming space, we don't want games, again, that are really designed for everybody. We want a variety. And with the open market that we have for video games, I think it's great to see games like Lies of P. Depending on how difficult it is, I may not be able to finish it. You know, Sekiro was insanely flippin' tough for me, and I got through about half of the game. And it's just like, man, I am getting brutal murdered out here. And I don't have as much time either as I used to. As a dad, as a husband, you know, somebody that cares about the rest of my extended family. I got friends too. I got church. I got work. I got, you know, it's 48 hours a week, sometimes more. And so, yeah, I got time to devote to other things to devote my time. And so when I have a game that's incredibly difficult or I can't adjust stuff on, it's just like, well, I'm going to enjoy it and play it some, but I'm probably not going to finish the game because as I progress, it's probably going to get definitely harder. But the things that are good is the mechanics work really well. People are enjoying the environment, they're enjoying the level, they're enjoying the creation. The graphical fidelity is really good. It's runs smooth. The world and theme, it's all believable with the design and level design and stuff and the mechanics in the game. If you played Steel Rising, it's probably like a refined Steel Rising game from what I'm getting. Let me read to... I don't even know where my phone is. Let me read to what Lion said so far about his experience with Lies of P. So he said, pros are that the game runs really smooth, very smooth, feels very much like a Dark Souls game. Characters are developed and animated really well. World is as well. Graphics are really pretty. I don't feel as though I experienced a lot of frame drops, which is nice. The con is, again, much like Sekiro, where you need to learn to parry and play defensively. So... yeah, he's got a few hours in. He's just beat his third boss. So he's played some into the game, which is great. And yeah, for $60, if you're a Souls guy, this is great. I'm pretty sure we will, too, also see at some point probably some updates to maybe work on those hitboxes or to work on those animations. Because even in Steel Rising, I was getting killed because I couldn't do something when I wanted to do it. And it's kind of frustrating when you get stuck like that, because then part of your playtime is really just waiting for that sweet spot. And some of us like the fast action, but when you don't feel like you really have a lot of options to you, but that's it can be difficult to play, you know. But that's probably how people thought too, or felt too, with Armored Core 6. Is it's actually quite hard to get started, and you got to change and shift and tweak things around. But in Lies of P, you don't have, you know, hundreds of options with tens of thousands of different computations. Excuse me. You just have, you know, 3 different classes. You got some items, some consumables, and you know, you got to be able to kind of really think about how you're going to do stuff. But yeah, playing the demo, I am excited to play the game. But I can tell you that when you guys see it, I am going to be dying a lot. Or there's going to be a lot of me standing there looking at an environment or a field or something and be like, okay, those are the enemies I got. I probably want to... And I'm going to be doing some planning on how I'm going to try to make it. And so it may not be the most exciting, but hey, you guys are here. You guys know the channel. So, yeah. Thank you for being here, by the way. I do plan later this year, before it's over, to do kind of like a YouTube, being a YouTuber update. And, yeah, look forward to that. Let's see. So yeah, Liza P has a 3.6 out of 5 so far. Most people like it. The people that are complaining about it, even some Dark Souls players, are talking about how the dodging is frustrating in the parry system. Next is PayDay 3. So this has a 1.8 out of 5.0, and the biggest thing is the third-party login. And that's all I show in my initial review. My initial look at the game is I just show where it says to log in, and how frustrating is that? Truly, it is truly annoying, and I really hate that because I'm already having to log into something just to play multiplayer, just to be able to access my games at this point, and then you're telling me that I have to have another login on top of it. And life is already complicated enough. I already have enough logins. They also want a direct connection to the player. You know, the internet connection was also a problem for the game. The matchmaking was a big problem for PayDay 3 as well. And yeah, the launch has not been good. And that is just another iron in the fire that that players got to deal with, is they just got to log in every single time. And we don't want to have to do that. We want, life is hard enough as it is. We want a streamlined experience, and the better a company can do that, the more money they're honestly going to make. This game was $40. It has 8 heists. The gameplay itself is actually pretty fun when it works and when it runs well, which most of the time it does. But the heists are actually pretty good. The enemies are updated, but sometimes still they can be pretty stupid too. And things are not perfect. But, when you're playing with your friends, it's a fun experience. It's a fun first-person shooter, and you can kind of work as a team to decide how you want to do it. There was a fairly good gameplay review or look at a closed beta that the Act Man did on YouTube. You can check out his channel. I really like a lot of his stuff. And he did a review of PayDay 3. He got invited to go to actually play at the studio, and he played with a couple of other people. Did some heists for a few hours, and he got to share some of his gameplay too, which I thought was great. So if you actually want to see gameplay, you should check out his video that he did. He just released that a few days ago, I want to say, earlier this week. But personally, not me. I don't need another login. It's another reason why I didn't show Exo Primal, which I was excited to try that. That was a PvEVP type of game. And that's a unique environment to play in. But again, it's like I just wanna log in. Can I do that? Can I just sit down and play my game for 30 minutes? But yeah, as I said it too, the other issues in the game is that matchmaking is having serious issues. But overall, the game, when it runs and works, the game is fun. And it is $40. There are other additions too. There's a ton of DLC so far. But a lot of it too is cosmetics. I don't know if future heists are gonna come, but boy, they are gonna be hurting on making money, I think, on this one, because we got such an environment now where if you screw up your game, the next 48 hours or next, 72 hours are going to be extremely crucial on how you fix your game, because if you go 3 or 4 or 5 days where you really haven't fixed stuff, your game's dead. Your game's just going to be dead in the water. No one's going to want to play it, and that's what happened to Redfall. And yeah, it sucks. It really sucks. I was hoping PayDay 3 was going to be more like PayDay 2. I got to play a little bit of that. I got to dip my toe into it. Eventually, Lion and I, at some point, when games get so bad we don't even want to play any, we'll eventually play PayDay 2. And PayDay 2 also had a lot of other content as well, which was nice. And generally, it's pretty cheap. So yeah, if you're not into logging in, or you're kind of done with PayDay 3 already, you could look into PayDay 2. It's still out there. We also got to learn that Immortals of Avium is doing horrible. So I didn't actually look up a review score for this, but a lot of people just are not interested. It's just kind of a genetic first-person magic shooter game. And the studio Ascendant is laying off 45% of the studio. That is flippin' catastrophic. The Steam charts showed that the peak player count was only about 750 people, which is really freaking bad. Yeah, Immortals of Avium, I was not super excited about it. They certainly pushed it a lot. They were even just a part of every single showcase earlier in the year, like Games Fest and Ubisoft and, well, maybe not Ubisoft, but like PlayStation and Xbox. I mean, we just saw it over and over and over again. It was one of the most repeated games across all of the showcases, and I just got I got tired of seeing it. It didn't interest me because the whole environment and story and everything, it just looked kind of flat, and the gameplay too also didn't look amazing. It's kind of how I felt when I saw Suicide Squad and got to see the gameplay. It's like, that's the gameplay? Well, okay. And then you got other contenders lately. We've also had a lot of good games, and with recession, people only have so much money, and so they voted with their money. And Immortals of Avium didn't sell well, which, yeah, that's brutal. That is brutal. We also got to hear from Mortal Kombat 1 that the port to Nintendo is graphically really freaking bad. There was definitely some... what's the word? Well, maybe a little bit of fraud taking place, because people had no idea that that's what the game is going to look like on Nintendo. So people have bought Nintendo, the Nintendo port, and it's like, what in the world is this? This is like a previous gen video game. We've had the current gen since 2019 at this point, and Nintendo software and hardware is not amazing, right? And they do that on purpose so it can be affordable, because they're more of a family-friendly console. But it is really, really bad. It's not even close to what you would expect the game to be like it can be on PlayStation. Yeah, that's really sad. And so, yeah, people feel like they kind of got screwed a little bit. And honestly, it doesn't even look like the same game. It's, all of the models and animations are still there, but the graphical quality and textures are just totally off. So it makes me ask the question: will devs continue to port over to Nintendo? Will people continue to buy games that are initially made for Xbox or PlayStation? Will they even make them for Nintendo? And will players too buy stuff originally for other consoles? Because when you get ports this bad, you feel like you wasted your money. You don't feel like you're playing the same game. And again, we know Nintendo doesn't have amazing hardware. The hardware cannot keep up, and that is on purpose. Again, it's to have a cheaper option, and so they sell their point on their IPs that they have, their exclusive IPs, and their innovation of their controllers and interfacing with the games that they have. But yeah, this is just another blow to people that have a Nintendo and want to play some games that are really meant for other consoles. And if I was a dev and I had to basically visually destroy my game, I wouldn't have it be on Nintendo. Because people aren't going to be happy with it. I don't want them to waste their money buying my game when they're not going to enjoy it, because it's a waste of money. And then my customers are just pissed, and it's just like, well, that's what we had to do to get it on the Nintendo. I mean, what do you want me to say? And so if you have a Nintendo, or that's kind of your main game, just be aware of what you're buying and kind of do your research. Again, let stuff come out. We should all probably do that anyway before we pre-order and buy stuff at launch, because there's plenty of content creator channels out there on YouTube where we're able to see what stuff looks like. Or there's the option too of Game Pass. If things are going to become day one, you won't feel like you blew all your money if it's a horrible game, like Redfall. We know the Switch 2.0 will definitely be better. But again, the Switch 2.0 is going to be out for a few years before the other consoles come out. And then the Switch 2.0 is going to be vastly left behind the rest of the consoles on a hardware level. And again, porting stuff over, it's going to be the same problem, just like what we have today. Next is Diablo 4. So, Diablo 4 is officially dead. And so, on Twitch, it's lost. Basically, nobody cares anymore. There's just a few hundred, maybe 1,000 people that actually watch. And then their player base, they've lost like 99% of their player base. It's over. I think there's still more people that probably play it on console than PC. But man, yeah, the second season isn't even out yet, folks. And the game's dead. And this was expensive. And this was an IP, too, that they also wanted to try. Overwatch 2 failed big time. And the stuff they were supposed to put out also just, they're like, oh, it's too hard, we're not going to do it. So Overwatch 2 is dead. And probably the franchise, honestly. Overwatch 3, I can't imagine people are going to buy it. Overwatch 2 was also, at the time, the worst reviewed game on Steam, with a 9%. That is just flipping horrible. And then now we got Diablo on top of it, and Diablo 3 was a step back, and there were changes in the company that made decisions. And Diablo 2 was great, from what I've heard. Diablo 3 was still pretty good, but not as good. And then Diablo 4 is just a freaking garbage can fire. And, yeah, I don't know if people are going to care if there's a Diablo 5. And, yeah, you got to think of these studios that as the old guard leaves and the new guard comes in, there is just a different focus on making money with these companies. And you know, this is kind of like the generational question of why older folks don't like younger folks. And usually or kind of generally speaking, why we don't kind of trust people in society, or we don't even like our own generation a lot of the time. And it's because, you know, we can see it in these companies as younger folks come in and the older folks leave. Again, the focus is just money. So whether it's people at the top, whether it's the quality level of the devs, whether it's how things are marketed, I mean, everything is skewed to an extent, and the games that we get today are just not the same quality of what they were. And on this channel, we try to show that. And I think when you look at games like Diablo 4, you really can't just think of the particular leader at the top, but you also have to think of how many people have retired and taking that knowledge with them in the gaming space, and also the quality of the devs. New people coming in, they're just not going to be as good. That's just reality. Doesn't matter if it's game developing or car manufacturing or something else. New people just are not as good at their job. And I think it's going to take years for games to potentially become good again. But we got to vote with our money, folks. We got to put our money where it's going to be best utilized for the companies that make great games still. And it's going to raise the bar, and then all of the other studios, all of the other publishers, they're going to have to reach those benchmarks. And if we do it long enough, it'll work. But we got to play the long game, not the short game. We got to do this long term. Like for the next decade, we got to do this. So vote with your money, folks. Please, let's vote for a better gaming industry. I also wonder, just a side note, if Blizzard is just kind of done. So we know that Xbox is buying Activision Blizzard, but I wonder if the Blizzard side is just kind of done. Because the only games they're making from last year and this year are basically Overwatch 2 and Diablo. And we also know, too, that Diablo and Overwatch were also delayed until, like, in Overwatch 2, things were just like, yeah, we're just cutting out the hero stuff, basically. That's not going to be there, the PvE. And then Diablo 4, they're saying, yeah, well, we can't add extra tabs for storage because, we're going to wait for the next update. And I got a huge problem with all of that. And so, if these games really aren't going to be turning in any more money, if they've already made their money, which, by the way, they did make a lot in short order, this game was going to be like a boomer year because they sold like 8 or 10 million copies, I think, in their first few weeks. Which, congratulations to them. But again, the grind is ultimately what's killed the game. And people are at a point now where players are defeating bosses in the game by themselves. There is nobody in the game, which is horrible. That's really bad and frustrating. And so, yeah, I don't really know what future Blizzard has because they got their reputation that they've built. And I mean, who wants to trust them now? Not me, man. I'm putting my money somewhere else. And so I really wonder what Xbox is going to do because I think they'll have to do a complete overhaul of the studio. And basically, I would be like, look, everybody is fired. People have to reapply. We're going to spend the next year completely rebuilding this company from scratch. Because if you have old stuff, if you still have toxicity, if you still have issues within the company, if you still have apathy, boy, you got to get rid of all that. It's got to be done. And it's like, Blizzard 2.0, we are making a whole new studio. This is why we exist. Here's our mission statement. These are the principles that we focus on when we make games. And this is who we're making them for. And that should be just a total redo of the studio. I mean, that's how I'd do it. Because, yeah, otherwise, Blizzard at this point is just going to be a dead weight. And it's just going to suck Microsoft's money dry. And they already spent like $75 billion now. And so, yeah, would you want to buy a $70 million paperweight? I mean, oh my goodness. So, yeah, their second season is going to come around. Maybe some people will come back just to see, but I think people will quickly check out within a week. And, their second season is supposed to come out later this year, but, boy, good luck to them. The last thing I wanted to mention, and this one has been quite a long one, but yeah, the last thing I wanted to mention is, this is for some of the older folks out there like myself that grew up with, like, PlayStation 1. Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 are getting a remaster. Frick yeah. I am so excited. This is going to be a $30 game, and it's coming out in February next year. So you can pay $30 for a remastered 1, 2, and 3, and honestly, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to do some more side gig jobs so that I can just buy it outright. And I am so excited for that. I mean, Tomb Raider was one of the staples in my childhood for playing games and just kind of the exploration and the story and the character development and the different kind of worlds and environments to see and how to and two, there were also a ton of puzzles. Some of the puzzles were just flipping amazing for the 90s. And I am really excited to see some differences in just how they've exactly changed the game. You can actually. There is a original and remaster comparison. The video is like a minute and a half. It's really short, but it gives you a look at the changes. So all they're doing is they're changing the textures, but they're not changing the level design. So the little ramps and like the kind of blockiness of certain things, that's all still going to be there, but they're changing all of the textures, and I hope they change some of the bugs too. But I am so excited to see like the dragon boss at the end of number 1. I'm excited to see Venice. I'm excited to see like Uh, oh my word. Oh my word, folks. Yeah, I am just flipping ecstatic. So, yeah, you're gonna be seeing that in the channel next year. You're gonna be seeing it on this channel. I'm so excited. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Just some last minute things. I'm gonna continue to be doing Starfield. Ubisoft servers or backups, or Lion and I are going to be continuing with Freedom Lands, which is Ghost Recon Wildlands. We're playing through that, and then Shepard and I have figured out a better timing with schedules, and so we're going to be continuing and starting, which we already did. We did our first one, Black Ops 3 campaign. We're playing it on realistic, and we're going to see if we can beat it. Holy smokes, folks! It is incredibly difficult. Just the first mission was stupid. But yeah, that's up there for you if you guys are interested. Things are really a bit busy too for my wife and I, so we're just going to continue on with It Takes Two while we can. But we got school starting up, we got different appointments for our kids, and we got stuff going on in both sides of our families, and we also need a break too from our house and just be able to get out and get some fresh air. Don't forget to do that, parents. Make sure you do that from time to time. Also, too, if you're interested, I have some Starfield hats. They're $29 plus shipping. If you're interested, we can take a look on the community tab and scroll down a bit, and you'll see the pictures of the hats there. But yeah, they're Starfield hats with the Constellation logo in the front, and it's all stitched in, so they're actually pretty nice. And I shipped one to Georgia for $4.44. So I'm using Pirate Ship, which is the cheapest option for shipping, and I'm just trying to keep it cheap enough for you folks. I'm not even making any money on these hats, because I think I spent $29.50 per hat, and I'm selling them for $29. But I wanted a hat. I couldn't find any that were good quality, so I thought, well, if I want one, some others will too. And so yeah, I basically made some hats for you folks. And then yeah, when they're gone, they're gone. And if this merch project goes well, then I'll have some future projects probably next year that I'll do related to gaming. So if you guys are interested in that, go ahead and let me know. You can leave a comment over at YouTube at Gaming Garbage 22 on one of my videos. I read them all. And then also you can find me at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. And you can leave me a whisper if you're interested. So hopefully you guys are doing well. Man, hang in there. I know Monday is today, probably when you're listening to this. But, remember why you work. Remember why you do stuff. And, if you don't have a current purpose, then just prepare for your future with the money that you're making. And continue to learn things, continue to grow. And I'll see you guys on the next one.